new rules coming into place could massively benefit Ineos, Manchester United, and the whole FFP situation. We're going to break down what's been reported and what it could mean ahead of the summer. Will Manchester United spend big this summer? Jim Ratcliffe having meetings with those at Newcastle to get Ashworth over the line, really pushing and involved in the deal. Varane is injured. We're giving you the latest on the injury front. There's a few rumours about Nagelsmann, but over 10 players could leave Manchester United, which would further boost the finances ahead of this summer. So please do hit that like button. Of course, subscribe down below if you're new. Give me 10 minutes of your time. I'm going to round up all the latest Manchester United news this morning. So let's start with this story from Sky Sports News. It was said the new agreed terms would mean Manchester United can spend up to 85% of their revenue generated every year on transfers. And then it was said by Ten Argira via Sky Sports News. It was said that agent fees / wages are included in the above, but this would surely keep us far away from reaching FFP conversations, considering the average we generate is 600 million plus a year. If passed, this would give Manchester United allowable football spend, wages, transfer fee and agent fees of 542 million a year based on 2023's revenue. For reference, our current annual wages is 208 million pounds. So that would give United a fair bit of financial boost in regards to FFP. And Man United's excuse for, maybe not having a big summer is FFP this, FFP that. That would allow Manchester United some leniency. Obviously, if we're in Europe, that goes down a little bit, and we're going to explain that. But essentially, Manchester United can probably spend a bit more without having to worry about FFP. Obviously, Ratcliffe and I'm sure Ineos will put out briefs that we're not going to spend much and they're going to be careful with rules, because that's what we do ahead of every summer. Because if we put out, we've got a massive budget, we're going to spend loads, teams will know that and they'll say, let's put an extra 10 million on, the price of this player. So Man United will buy this player for putting, Rasmus Højlund was 50 million. Man United come in, we get him for 64. Clubs know if Man United come in for their player, they can stick another 10, 20 million on. Ratcliffe wants that to end. So I think the approach this summer, they'll be talking about FFP a lot and that we've got very little money, but I think they have a lot more money to spend and then they'll maybe make out. Now, Kieran Maguire is a financial sort of reporter, and he said this on the rules. He said, let's not pretend we care about the new Premier League spending rules. What is important is how much can we spend or do we need to save? Based on assumption of player wages equals 80% of total players' profits over the last sort of 1 to 2 to 3, this is the estimate. What does this mean in plain English? 5 of the Super League 6 can spend a lot more money with the financial teacher Brighton's pet. Can also spend a lot of money. Clubs like Villa, Forest, Newcastle, who want to do well in the Premier League, might need to cut. What are the calculations? The total income of the club calculated as revenue plus best player profits. The cap is 70% of above, and that can be spent on wages, etc., etc., etc. So he's broke that down. He basically said if the club is playing in UEFA competition, the cap is set at 70%, and given these figures, this is what would basically essentially happen. And Manchester United at the bottom of that list, you can't see them, but essentially it would not be a problem for us. We're not one of the teams that would need to save. We're one of the few teams that wouldn't need to save ahead of that as well. So yeah, I think ahead of this summer, I don't know what the spending will be, and I think a lot of the spending will depend on sales. But if the new rules come in, it does benefit us. I'd have to do a bit more research on the new rules to see how much it does benefit us. I think being in the Conference League or Europa League wouldn't benefit you as much as being in the Champions League, of course, because of the 70% cut. But I do think because we're such a big club that generates so much money, it probably will benefit us. But I think United are going to be very careful about letting people know that if it does benefit us, if that makes sense. I'll have to do some more research on the rules. I think now Man United were putting out that they won't have much money, this and that, because they want to stop overspending. We're going back in for Dan Ashworth. Now, reportedly, we're going to get into that, but they're not going to spend 20 million on Dan Ashworth. They're dragging it out, so Newcastle might say, okay, look, we're going to have to set less than 20 million for Ashworth. Now, something that could massively boost United's spendings this summer is the sales. And here is some of the news on the sales. It said that Manchester United will let 12 of their first team players leave Old Trafford this summer. Sancho, obviously. Forster was a little bit surprising. Fernandes, that looks like he's going to go. That's Alvaro Fernandes, just to clarify, because I said Fernandes was leaving once and someone said, stop lying, Bruno isn't leaving. I was talking about Alvaro Fernandes, Hannibal Mejbri, Donny van der Beek, Pelistri, obviously Greenwood, Evans could go, Martial, Heaton, Williams. They look like players that are set in stone to go. That's 12 players that essentially out of contract. You can include Amrabat in that as well because we're not renewing his contract. That's 13 players that are essentially set in stone. Man United are like, yeah, we're going to listen to offers for you. We're going to probably let you go. Now, a lot of these players aren't going to raise a lot of money, but players like McTominay could be sold. Players like Casemiro could be sold. Varane could leave on a free, but that's a lot of money and wages gone. Wan-Bissaka, future is at risk. Lindelof could be sold. Maguire could be sold. Eriksen, likely to go. So you actually look at that and then you look at there's like 7 or 8 other players that could be sold as well. There could be 15 plus players leaving United, and 3 or 4 of those players could be players that actually bring in some decent money. Sancho, McTominay, Greenwood, I'd assume would bring in some decent sort of money for us. Potentially you can get a little bit for Lindelof, maybe Saudi do something for Casemiro there. I do think that United's plan is to let go of a lot of players. I think United want to massively clear the deadwood out because the more we sell, the more we can buy, and we've got a lot to buy. We need 2 centre-backs, we need Branthwaite and Toliver, in my opinion. We need a full-back that could be comfortable giving cover either side, that is good, that is young, that is pacey. We need a DM, we need a box-to-box midfielder, we need 2 midfielders, in my opinion. We need someone that can be a bit of Maino backup and Bruno backup, and then we need someone that can actually be a solid 6 and play with Maino. We need a right winger to give Rashford some real competition and give Garnacho some real competition, and we need a backup striker. Ideally Xerxes, Elise, Toliver, Branthwaite, someone like Andre, someone like Mats Riefer, and then someone that comes in at fullback. That's what we need, and the only way we can achieve that is if we sell. Continuing on, now I'm all for Man United spending a load of money this summer, but there's no point spending a load of money if you're giving that money to Ten Hag and Murta to spend again and drop 85 million on the likes of Anthony and 60 million on Mount. We can talk about Manchester United getting a big financial boost and why that's important, but actually it's about where you spend the money. It's not about how much you spend. It's about where that money goes. Because we've spent more than Liverpool in the last 10 years and they've had a lot more success. We've spent more than most clubs in the last 10 years. Look at us and look at Chelsea. We've not been successful because our spending has been bad. Whereas Manchester City have, Arsenal showing look like they will be, and of course Liverpool have. Now, someone that will be important to that is, of course, Omar Barada on the financial side, Jason Wilcox, but the face of that sin is Dan Ashworth. And this was said by Lawton of the Times, who's one of the best sources and most credible sources of information out there. He said Sir Jim Ratcliffe has held face-to-face talks with Newcastle co-owner Amanda Stavley in a bid to reach an agreement on Dan Ashworth to move to United. Now, this is what I like. The Dan Ashworth deal is really important to Jim Ratcliffe. It's really important to Ineos. Ineos want it done, but they're not going to give Newcastle 20 million, because if they give Newcastle 20 million, other teams are going to be like, they caved, they gave Newcastle 20 million for Dan Ashworth, we can mug them off. Man United want to get rid of, we can mug them off in the transfer window reputation. What I like is Sir Jim Ratcliffe actually holding face-to-face talks with Amanda Stavley. Sir Jim Ratcliffe won't want to be too involved, he'll leave the experts to do it, but he's trying to push through on Ashworth. Sir Jim Ratcliffe has visited Old Trafford, visited the players. Sir Jim Ratcliffe has gone to many games. He's communicated with Ten Hag. He's had meetings with the players. He's spoken to people at Manchester United, and he's actively pushing to get that Dan Ashworth deal done. When would the Glazers ever do that? When would the Glazers ever do that? I think that is, for me, showing that Jim Ratcliffe's ambition and interest in the club. So Jim Ratcliffe is ambitious and interested in United. He's a businessman, of course he is, but he makes enough money with Ineos, and he's not looking to make money out of United. He's ambitious. And I like that. I've been impressed with what I've seen, but of course, actions speak louder than words. We need to see progress at United in the next 2 years. We're going to judge you a little bit off this transfer window and what goes on. And I'll tell you one thing. I wanted Qatar. I was very Qatari, I was sceptical about Sir Jim Ratcliffe because he's kept the Glazers here. Very sceptical about it. I wanted the Glazers gone, and I was upset that we didn't get a full sale. But you know what? I've got a little bit of confidence that while we might not see anything in the next year, maybe in 3 years, I think we'll see that United are back on the right track. I think we'll start to see we're getting back on the right track. And maybe in the next 3 years, we'll be where we want to be. Because I have confidence that Ratcliffe's intentions are about sporting success at United, not financial success. And with those intentions, and there's someone making the decision at the top of the club with those intentions, I believe if we operate smartly, which so far Omar Barada, Jason Wilcox, Dan Ashworth, we can get back to the top. And that's just me trying to be super positive. But of course, with Manchester United, there's always negative news. When is it not a Manchester United news report when I don't have to talk about injuries? Varane's going to be out for the next few weeks. Varane and Martinez are essentially missing the rest of the season again. Maguire is fit. Evans is a bit hit and miss, and Lindelof's basically been injured all season. So we're going to be probably relying on Camboala a bit, and this is a great opportunity for Camboala. I think he's a great player. I did a report on Camboala, how we signed him a couple of seasons ago, and he was the highest rated French talent out there. We know what his potential was like when we signed him, but he had injury issues. But let's just pray for no more injuries this season, man. I can't be bothered with it. as well. And our last story is about Nagelsmann, and I wanted to save this to the end because I'm fed up of talking about the manager situation. I think there's nothing super credible out there. There's just rumours. This is all sort of rumours and guesswork and reports going about. And I'm sure if United are looking at a new manager, Nagelsmann is an option, but I don't think anything's advanced. But this was the news on Nagelsmann saying that he's liked by members at United. Some really want him. However, there's a word on the street that Nagelsmann is said to not accept any approaches as it stands, and that a Premier League club has shown interest in Nagelsmann. It could be United or Newcastle. Look, if Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos have decided to sack Ten Hag, they will be showing interest in managers, and Nagelsmann is one of the best managers available. So there could be some truth in that. But I think we have to just take all manager news with a pinch of salt now, focus on the other stories, and then when you've got Romano and you've got breaking news and we're getting towards the end of the season where they probably would release what's happening with the manager, we give it our attention. Listen, people, please do hit that like button on the way out. Of course, subscribe down below if you're new. I'll be back tonight with another update. I hope you found this news video informing. See you next time. Bye.